Welcome back to NASCAR Lap by Lap with me, Garon Bach. Background a little different. I'm not in my regular location today, but it still should be just as good as a show as usual. Going to preview the Atlanta race weekend, take a look back at the Tricky Triangle, Chase Briscoe's victory at Pocono, and then also talk about the in-season challenge, the playoffs. We have a lot to unpack here in the next 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and kick off right into it. Let's go look at the Pocono results. Obviously, the big name from the weekend, Chase Briscoe. We talked about it on the show. You've heard about it almost everywhere. You can see his name. He has put a lot of pressure on himself to win with Joe Gibbs. He had talked about the childhood dream of racing for his favorite driver, wearing the Joe Gibbs uniform, the Home Depot Joe Gibbs uniform as a kid. This is someone who is fulfilling a dream that kind of makes me jealous, but in general should make anyone jealous for exactly what he has done. And he did it well. He had a great performance, put on a phenomenal fuel saving play there over the last 30 laps. But we can also talk about the bad to this. There were issues of passing. We've always known Pocono to be more for the strategy, not for the passing, and that's what happened this weekend. Even though it looked like Denny Hamlin was going to dominate. I mean, you look at the points here in 51. Chris Buescher was there with 48. This looked like a weekend that was going to go towards your usual. And by usual, I mean Denny Hamlin. I picked him at the beginning of the season to win the championship, and he is not disappointing me right now. Now, obviously, still a little bit of regular season left, and the playoffs are an entirely different format. But the way that he is performing right now puts a lot of emphasis on him to keep looking out for him. If he can catch a win on maybe a super speedway this weekend, maybe show how he can be dominant on any type of track, especially when it comes towards the playoffs, avoid those issues, he should be a front runner. But if you are a fan of Joe Gibbs Racing, a pretty solid weekend for you. I also highlighted another Toyota driver with Legacy Motor Club, John Hunter Nemechek. You guys have heard me talk about it all season long since I've been doing this show, and it's that Legacy Motor Club is putting on shows that I want to be able to see them execute on. They have finished sixth, finished in the top 10, had those top fives back at Daytona. But maybe John Hunter Nemechek, and I've said this, I just want them to get right above that cusp, finish fifth. Maybe have an Eric Jones, you see right there in 13th. Maybe have them both finish inside the top 10. But the last team I want to hit on before I move down the list now, you see them highlighted in blue. Those are the RFK Racing Blue Ovals. Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski, all top 10 once again. And I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. I can't remember. It was within the past month. We had talked about that the RFK team, back whenever it was Roush Fenway, back whenever it was Roush, they had not had all three drivers finish inside the top 10 since the mid-2010s. And now to be able to have it happen twice in a span of a month is pretty impressive. This is a team that all three of these drivers, they're not locked into the playoffs. Brad Keselowski's in a must-win situation, but Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, we obviously know Buescher has the speed. Preece has the speed, but it might be another track like this weekend in Atlanta that will have to pull them through to be able to lock themselves into the playoff. Now let's go on to the other half of the results here. Now, obviously, before I touch on anyone else, you see the photo of Bubba Wallace here. 2311 had an abysmal day. Brake rotor issues, just could not trust their brakes. At a track that breaks, obviously brakes are always going to be important in almost every track you go to, but at a track where you can't even complete many laps or you can't finish the race because of brake issues, that is the problem here. You see at the very bottom, Riley Herbst, Bubba Wallace, both earned 1 point. And Bubba, in his interview on Prime, after he came out of the Infield Care Center, you could tell how upset he was and how he had to deal with these just streaks that he has. He has a couple of streaks that give him a 40-point, 50-point cushion, and then he's had other streaks where he's dropped from that huge cushion and has fallen down to 12th. And when you see, has fallen down to only a 12-point cushion. Sorry about that. But when you see that all three cars had an issue, Tyler Reddick, you see he finished a lap down. That was because he went in pit. He had to go into the pits because as a driver, when you see your other two teammates both wrecking out, you want to take care of yourself before even thinking about taking care of a win. So to be able to just finish the race, he earned 13 points. Wasn't the best points day for him, but overall, he's okay. He's second in the point of drivers that have not locked themselves in with a win, right below Chase Elliott. So he's going to be all right. Didn't really need this one, but would have preferred that it went differently. The rest of the list here, nothing really stands out. William Byron, he had the fastest car in practice, spun, hit the wall during qualifying. He was cutting his way through the field, and then I talked about it on the show last week that Byron, he does well at this track, but he seems to have his issues. He does well at Pocono, but either bad strategy, something wrong with the car. It just seems that him and Fugel just have not figured out how to get past the tricky triangle. But now to the point standings, something very important coming out of the weekend. Obviously, there's now a new driver who has locked himself into the playoffs with Chase Briscoe. And these points are not accurate to the point of that's where they definitely sit. That was just more so I just put them in there to kind of give a picture. Here in a couple of weeks, they will then be put into order for what the playoff points are. And this is where I want to start. I talked about Tyler Reddick with his really big cushion. I mean, look, he's 69 points above Chris Buescher from 13th through 14th. Then you see Bubba Wallace. That weekend really hurt him. Pocono really hurt the 23 team because now he's only plus 29 points. That's about half a race worth of points. So if he has another race where he only makes it, which we're going to a track in which we have seen him wreck, we have seen issues on super speedways where the 23, he's typically, Bubba Wallace is a very good super speedway racer, but everyone has a chance to be caught up in an incident this weekend in Atlanta with just the type of pack style racing there is. But let's keep moving down the list. So Alex Bowman welcomes his way with a little bit of a better gap now, plus 20, but he's still somewhere he does not want to be. You have to remember how his playoffs went last season. Alex Bowman was a driver that looked like he was about to make his way into the round of 8. Sadly for him, luckily for Joey Logano, who went on to win the championship last season, Bowman's car did not meet the minimum weight requirement. And you can argue, well, a piece of the car fell off, but regardless, it just didn't work out for him. It didn't work out for the 48 team, but here it is now, a driver who has an opportunity to win. He's put on not dominant performances, but he's put on great performances to where he's putting himself up front. It's that consistency that Hendrick Motorsports is kind of getting known for. You see Kyle Larson with 3 wins, but the reason why you don't see him as the consistent driver like you see Chase Elliott is because he's always been known as a checker or wreckers type of guy. He's someone who's going to put his car out there, use every inch of the track that he can, and sometimes it just does not work out for him. But you see Chase Elliott plus 160 ahead of the cut line. Elliott's fine. I think that he will point his way in. I think Tyler Reddick will most likely point his way in for everyone else. As you can see, Ryan Preece, AJ Allmendinger. Welcome Eric Jones to the top 20, by the way. Kyle Busch. These are the drivers that are going to be the ones you need to keep an eye on. These are the drivers that it's very important. Allmendinger, I thought, would maybe have a shot to get multiple points back in Mexico City. Did not go that way. But here's the last thing I want to highlight with the playoff standings. So this is where I just want to talk about for a little bit. We have multiple races still left. And I wanted to show you guys, I'll talk about it later, but when you go to a super speedway type track twice, and then you've got your road courses, which a lot of us are kind of thinking it's going to be Shane Van Gisbergen, but I'll touch on that when the time comes. You can have a driver who will lock himself into the playoff and be below the cut line maybe 4 times. And if we go back to the points here, look at that. You're going to have one spot available if 4 drivers were to win, I believe, the next 9 races. And those are 4 drivers that were not locked into the playoff. I lost count of how many races there are. Forgive me for that. But regardless, it's a very scary situation if you're Ryan Preece. I mean, you're already below the cutoff line, but look at it here for Bubba Wallace, who hasn't really shown that he's up there winning a race. We saw it at Homestead with him and Alex Bowman racing each other. Obviously, Larson ended up winning that race, but when's the opportunity going to come for these drivers? Alex Bowman, like I said, he's known to be a consistent guy, but consistency in this day and age does not help you win, nor does it help you make it into the playoffs, yet even fight for a championship or playoff. And that's where the issue starts, because you see Shane Van Gisbergen, who's not even going to be a part of the in-season challenge because he couldn't keep himself above that 32-point threshold. He's locked in for a championship. And that's no disrespect to him. Don't hate the player, hate the game on this one. And that's NASCAR's system in which it doesn't look like they're going to change. They may add a few more races for the end of for the final round, the final 4 drivers, but it's not necessarily going to change that much. I'm not sure what NASCAR is going to do. There's so much speculation going on right now that it doesn't necessarily matter what I want or even what the fan wants. So with how it's going right now for NASCAR, how it's going for the playoffs, how it's going for the tracks that are coming up, we still have Chicago and Sonoma back to back, Atlanta. This is Daytona as the last cutoff race, 2 super speedways, a street course, a road course. It has it all. It has it all this season. It's very exciting. But at the same time, I'm going to be, I think we're all going to be collectively looking at maybe a driver we really think should be pointed into the playoffs, a driver who earned it, but that didn't win it. And we're all going to complain about it and we're going to move on, because that's how it's going to be every season until NASCAR decides to fix their playoff system or fix just their championship system. But I digress, because I now want to go ahead and switch gears and go into the in-season challenge. Now, if you have lived under a rock, if you're Chase Elliott, you didn't know what the challenge was. He knew what it was. He mentioned that he didn't know that there was a prize, $1 million at the end, but it's going to be 5 races, just 32, 16, 8, 4, and then 2 head-to-head, driver versus driver. And you're going to see this weekend, it's going to look like the playoff banners. There's going to be different colors on the top of the windshield of the car, and that's going to show this is going up against this, and it's a very fun concept. Now, NASCAR came out with a promo video for it a couple of days ago using drivers to announce it, and the joke was it was Denny's idea, which it is. If you listen to Denny Hamlin's podcast, Actions Detrimental, you obviously knew this sounded fun. The NBA has done it, so why not try to put it in a format on TNT, what NBA is known for, doing these type of events on? Why not just let TNT host all the in-season tournaments now? And that's what's going to happen this weekend. So I'll go ahead and pull up my bracket. It might be a little blurry, and I apologize for that, but you should see who I have as the winner, Chris Buescher. I really like Chris Buescher. This is after 5 races. You got to remember it's after 5 races, so there's a lot going on. But as you can see, I have Denny Hamlin beating Ty Dillon. I have Brad Keselowski over Kyle Busch. And the first round is 1 race. Every round is 1 race. So keep that in mind. Keep that whenever, if you want to fill out a bracket, go right ahead. They have printable ones on NASCAR.com, or you can follow along with my advice, because there's going to be different races and different drivers. I mean, if you notice, I have Daniel Suárez making it to the final 4 drivers because of the tracks that are there. And I really like what's going on for the 99 team, for the tracks they're going to. You got to remember, there's going to be 2 road courses involved in this. And sadly, if you're, like I mentioned, if you're a Van Gisbergen fan, he's not going to be part of this. 33rd in points, had to be top 32. The seeding, if you're like, wait, should it not just be the top 32 in points? Why is William Byron? You can see he's the 18th overall seed in the top right portion of the bracket. And that's because NASCAR made it confusing a little bit, but it's okay. We're still getting the drivers, and if you're good enough, you're good enough. That's my logic. The drivers are going to still be facing off one-on-one against each other. But you're at Atlanta, so why not think some upsets here? Why not think of,
hey, this could happen. This might happen. Let's give it a go. Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and that's a toss-up, whatever. That's 16, 17. You can go either way on that. I'm here for it. Argue with it. You do whatever you want. And you know what? I'll probably end up changing my mind. You'll probably end up changing your mind as well. But Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, I really like Penske this weekend. I'll go ahead and give it away. I mean, obviously Logano won last fall, which kind of kicked off his whole playoff run. And then you've got Daniel Suárez. I mentioned I haven't gone to the Final Four here. And you know what? I'm not embarrassed of it. I love it. I'm riding with it. You got John Hunter Nemechek over Josh Berry. I have a lot of faith in Legacy Motor Club. I saw what they did at Daytona. Now, did it really translate over to Talladega or over to Atlanta earlier this season? I don't know. Frankly, I don't care because this is what is going to happen. It's going to be anyone's race this weekend. And you got to remember, your driver could be finishing 30th coming out of Sunday, but if the driver they're going up against finishes 31st, hey, they're moving on. That's something you get to put on your shoulder, something you have as an achievement. But moving down the list, you see Chase Elliott. I have him going to the Final Four. You got Ross Chastain over Eric Jones. That's just because why not ride with the Melon Man? I saw him win at Charlotte. Why not? Maybe if he wins $1 million, you'll get to smash a watermelon with $1 million check. Now, that would be pretty sick. And then you got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. versus Christopher Bell. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Why are you picking Ricky Stenhouse Jr. over Christopher Bell? We heard it last week. That 47 team, that Hayek Motorsports team, this is the race they have circled to make it into the playoffs right here. This and Daytona. These are the ones they are riding with. And I'll go ahead and bring up the intro. This is the photo from the start-finish line last race in Atlanta, which is now EchoPark Speedway. Keep that in mind as well if you're a little confused seeing that. But Christopher Bell was the winner. He was the winner here. And that was during his kickoff of 3 races in a row, 3 different types of tracks that he won at. That was whenever we had just kicked off the show. And I'm like, well, guys, there's not much to talk about just when Christopher Bell winning this whole season. And that's turned just like that. But back to the in-season challenge here. The bottom left of the bracket, it seems pretty straightforward. You know, we got Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain in those situations because you got to remember after this race is the July 4th weekend, which is going to be the street course. So now you got to think on those drivers on the second portion, on the second lines now of the bracket. You got to think, okay, who's going to win in the road course? Obviously, Chase Elliott, dominant. Ross Chastain, very good road courses. Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, I think Hamlin's got it. Daniel Suárez, we saw him winning the Xfinity car in Mexico City. He led a couple laps in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he's someone who's won at Sonoma. So that's why my logic here is, you know, just kind of keep it straightforward. If you're going to fill out your bracket, look at what the race is. Look at who's up, because it's going to be Atlanta, and then it's going to be Chicago, then Sonoma, and then at the very end of it, it's going to be Indianapolis, and it's going to be very fun, very, very exciting for the sport. I think it's a very fun idea. I think it's something that's going to keep the season fresh. I want to just excuse me for a second. I want to make sure I'm getting the final race right here. Dover Motor Speedway is the 4th to last race, so you got to remember as Daniel Suárez, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Chris Buescher. That's going to be fun as well. But the section I haven't touched on is the bottom right quadrant of the bracket. McDowell, AJ Allmendinger. I like McDowell here. You know, he won at Daytona. Those are 2 really good road course guys, and it sucks that they're not going to be able to go head-to-head on a road course to kick it off, but it's okay. Ty Gibbs, Justin Haley. Justin Haley, he's won a race. He's won at Daytona. It was rain shortened, but hey. But I'm going to go with Ty Gibbs. I like what Ty Gibbs has done this season. He's not got that win, but hey, I really think we can all give him his credit at this point of the year, knowing that the 54 team had struggled. Remember, there was a run of finishing outside of the top 30 for him. So this is going to be a really good experiment for some of those drivers that aren't necessarily winning this season. Because if you think about it in a logical sense, if you're the driver that makes it out of here and you're not already locked into the playoffs, if you're a Chase Elliott like I have going all the way, if you're a Chris Buescher, that's my championship here. They could have a really good points weekend. Sorry, a really good points month, Because you got to think about it this way. I mean, you got to finish near the top half. You got to finish near the top half of the field if you're going to advance in this, most likely. But Austin Cindric versus Zane Smith. Like I said, I really like Penske this weekend. And then you got Chris Buescher, Todd Gilliland. And yeah, I'm riding with the RFK driver. Eat My Cinnadust as the car this weekend. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Beautiful car. Even more beautiful t-shirt. I'm going to have to get it. I can't wait to wear it on the show within the next couple of weeks because, I have to rep just NASCAR in general. But overall, I really think it's going to be a fun next month. TNT should do a good job of coverage. Remember, most of it's going to be what Amazon had. We're not going to have that pre-race show, maybe not have it as long as a post-race show. I'm not necessarily too sure. But overall, it should be a good summer month. I really think NASCAR's hit their stride when in the summer now. They realize, hey, the NBA's done. The MLB, is kind of in that mellow part where the All-Star break's going to happen in July. And then you've got a lot going on for football's done, so you don't have to worry about that until the fall. Hockey's done. So a lot of your big sports are taking their breaks. In NASCAR, this is where they're hoping to maybe kind of pick up some more fans, keep growing, because even though the numbers went down when it went to Prime, at least for, I think NASCAR, I think Amazon Prime averaged like 1.7 million viewers per race, 1.5 to 1.7 on Amazon Prime. It's still good because they got a 7-year gap in a younger group of people watching it compared to an older group of people, which it makes sense. Streaming, younger people are doing that more. But overall, I think that moving it over to TNT, we should start getting those similar numbers to cable again, and we can stop arguing about, hey, is streaming better or not? Because it's only 5 races. I think we can all put up with 5 races every year on a really, really good streaming product. But the last part of the show I want to jump into is Atlanta. I've mentioned I really like those Penske cars here. Ryan Blaney really likes it here. I mean, you look at his numbers. He's the only driver with a single-digit average finish, 6.7. He has 6 top 10s and he has 0 DNFs. So if you're thinking about even him in the bracket, there's a reason why I have him moving on. I understand it's always going to bite you. It's going to get you as a driver when you're on these type of packages, super speedways, 2 wide, 3 wide, narrow track at Atlanta. It's going to bite you at some point, but it's going to be okay, in my opinion, to just go ahead and say, you know what, Ryan Blaney, let's ride. In the link, if you're watching this on YouTube, below in the description, there's a link. Using our code for Bleacher Brothers, you put in $5, $300 back in bonus bets. If you use our link, good love for you to sign up. And the reason why I bring that up is this. I like Ryan Blaney so much. He sits at plus 800 odds right now on DraftKings as a race winner. He's the favorite right now. And below him, guys, I actually just realized this. So they're not just the favorites to me, they're the favorites to the sports books over at DraftKings. Ryan Blaney plus 800, Joey Logano plus 850, and Austin Cindric plus 900. All 3 Penske drivers are the top 3 drivers expected to win the race on Saturday night. So I really think that, hey, maybe if you're wanting to ride it, I think Ryan Blaney is the guy to do it. You've seen him do really well at Talladega. This is a driver that, he won at Nashville. He might be able to get back there in victory lane. And I think Atlanta would be the track to do it with just how well he does it there. But listen, if you don't really like that idea, if you don't really love the idea of wanting to put it plus 800, that's a really long shot, regardless of if he's the favorite. Well, he's plus 100 for a top 5 finish. That's some pretty good money right there. I mean, that's still plus odds for a top 5 guy who's finished 6 times inside the top 10. I think that's a really good move here. But moving down, the drivers you see I have I've bolded here. I've marked them. Those are drivers that are already locked into the playoff right now. So if you'll count down with me, you got 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drivers out of the 16 listed. 10 of them are not locked in. That's all I've got to say. I expect Ryan Blaney to win, but please do not be shocked if there's another driver that locks their way into the playoff from below the cut line. And I'm not talking like someone maybe like a Carson Hocevar or Kyle Busch who's sitting in the upper 20s or, someone like a Michael McDowell who's in the upper teens. I'm talking about maybe a Riley Herbst. I I've always expected 2311 to kind of show up at these things, and they typically do well. Riley Herbst finished 17th here in the spring race, which is odd to say because that race was only 4 months ago. But it could be someone like Herbst, Jones, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who has highlighted this as a race that they want to win. Michael McDowell, Justin Haley, Carson Hocevar, the three Spire guys. Hocevar, you see him in the photo right here. He finished second. And I guarantee you, if NASCAR wasn't so inconsistent with that caution and that green flag, just that whole mess we had at the beginning of the season in all four national series, then it would have been maybe the 77 in victory lane in Atlanta late February. But here he has another shot. Kyle Busch, a driver who has not won in over a season, could come in here and just take it. And then you got Daniel Suárez and Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott, you're going to hear a loud cheer when he takes the lead. Basically, this season it's been Kyle Larson that's been happening for, but hometown track, hometown kid, Chase Elliott should be someone that you should keep an eye on. Obviously, second here, but I want to finish it off with this. I like Ryan Blaney. That's who I expect to win this weekend. I do not expect anyone to be in particularly bad. You've also got a few drivers who don't typically race. You got Corey LaJoie. I know a lot of people have changed their minds on Corey LaJoie after seeing him on Prime. I'm glad to see LaJoie be able to be himself, be more of the expert on that, and I think he did a great job. I'm excited to see him back in the seat. Remember, guys, he led at Daytona. With less than 10 to go, he was making his way near the front. I think he led there. So for someone who's a fan of LaJoie, someone who's a fan of the underdog, this is the race that you need to keep an eye on as someone who, if you want to see some chaos, go ahead and start off. You've got the in-season challenge being an issue of interest here for drivers and fans alike. There's a lot of money around it as well, which that'll be my last bet I'll give you. And then overall, you've got Atlanta, fun track, one of a kind. Everyone loves it. It was my first NASCAR race back in 2022 when they repaved the track. That was exciting. It was awesome. This is a track that is going to be at the top of a lot of NASCAR fans' mind. When they see the schedule, they go, this I need to be able to clear my calendar and tune in for. But my last bet of the day, I like to give out two. This is my second one. So if you're over on DraftKings, like I mentioned, you can bet. You can put money on the head-to-head matchups in the bracket. If you feel that comfortable in your bracket, feel that confident in your bracket, go for it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but you go for it. Just remember to use our link in the description below. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I like him above Christopher Bell. That's at plus 150 right now. I think that's really good odds for the 47 team, especially when you've heard about them. We need this race. We need this race. And Bell's been a little bit on his downward dive right now. Expect that 47 team. Expect the driver who has put a lot on his shoulders, especially with the whole beef that he's had, has sort of become a favorite for fans who aren't a big fan of Carson Hocevar, who's also another name you can keep an eye on, like I mentioned, with Spire Motorsports team. This should be a really fun weekend. I'm excited to cover it. I'm excited to watch the race this weekend. I think everyone should be excited for it as well. But I want to close off and just thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys had a lot of fun, some insight on this, and I'll look ahead to having you join me next week for the Chicago Street Race. Thank you so much for joining.